Ted and I didn't want kids. We were happy with the idea of growing old together with just our pets as our children. And that's just one of many reasons why this whole saga is so bizarre. We were out shopping one day, and Ted disappeared. I opened the dressing room door to ask if the pants made me look fat, and he wasn't there. Rude, I thought. The least he could do was tell me he was going for a leak. I waited for him for so long that the store attendant asked if there was a problem. In the end, I scoured the entire mall and parking lot until I finally called mall security and then the cops. There's no trace of Ted anywhere. It's like he disappeared into thin air. And then, exactly 9 months later, Ted appeared in our backyard holding a baby. He looked normal enough on the surface, but when he changed out of the hospital gown he was wearing, I noticed a long red scar just below his stomach. So I asked him, what happened? Did they take your kidney or something? He just chuckled and shook his head. No, I had a C-section. I thought he was joking. But then he bent over the baby lying on our bed and crooned, "There wasn't any other way out, was there, Schnookums?" What? Whose baby is that? I asked, crossing my arms. And he just goes, "He's ours, Mal. Do you even need to ask?" Ted, you can't have babies. You have a penis. And then he just laughs again and says famous last words, and then cradled the baby in his arms. Yeah, I have no idea what to make of it all. It seemed like Ted had been hit in the head with a baseball bat one too many times. I tried to get him to go to the hospital, but he refused, and he was just so stubborn that I eventually gave up. Shortly after, I started finding my sports bras missing. When confronted, Ted eventually admitted to taking them. Why? I asked. And then Ted looks all guilty and says, "Well, it's just..." And then he lifted up his shirt and undershirt to reveal my favorite sleeping bra. There were 2 circular damp patches directly over his nipples. That explained where the baby's milk was coming from. Ted finally let me take him to a doctor. And the results were mind-boggling. Dr. Vaughn was all, "I can't believe this. This is a medical impossibility. It's a miracle." Ted just beamed with pride. And then he started lactating again and excused himself to go pump his breasts. Sadly, Dr. Vaughn died in a freak lightning storm later that day. With the late doctor's assessment, I have to admit that my husband's crazy claim about carrying a baby to term was true. But what I couldn't accept about his story was how it happened. According to him, he was abducted by aliens. He was waiting for me to come out of the changing room, preparing a comment of how ravishing and thin I looked when a beam of light appeared over his head and sucked him up to a very bright room filled with highly advanced technology faster than he could say Roy Rogers. I've never heard you use that expression before. And then he just goes, "I learned a lot of new things over there. The aliens are fond of classic cowboy films. They showed me a lot of those." He also learned that the aliens were fond of the ancient Mayan civilization and the singer Grimes. "So what do they do to you in there? On the UFO or whatever?" "The mothership," he corrects me. "Well, first they ran some tests, stuck some tubes in me, and probed me everywhere. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting. They use these high-tech devices that don't cause any pain. The probe felt quite nice, actually." Ugh, I rolled my eyes. "And then they asked me if I wanted any kids. I said no, and they asked me if I meant that seriously. And I had time to think about it, and I eventually realized, yeah, actually, I do want kids." He sniffled a little as he watched our son, Theodore, play with his stuffed donkey. So I said to him, "You could have told me that, Ted. I thought we were on the same page." "I did too, Mal. It's just, I guess when you have work, a marriage, and pets, all those things to fill your days with, you don't have enough time to just think. Being on the mothership gave me some clarity." "So you asked the aliens to knock you up?" Not in those exact words, but they did give me a child, yes. Okay. The aliens hadn't told him exactly how they created the baby or put it inside him. All he knew was that he underwent a procedure while knocked out on alien drugs and found himself increasingly pregnant as time went on. He worried about how I'd react, but the aliens assured him I'd come around. And just how did the aliens know that? Ted just smiled at me. The aliens know everything, Mal. Ugh. As you might expect, there are tons of other questions, like what the aliens look like, how they found him, why, whether the baby was even human. But Ted claimed he didn't remember much aside from random details here and there. He said the aliens wiped a good chunk of his memories before they sent him back down, as it was dangerous for the human race to know too much about them. Dangerous for them or for us? For us. Definitely for us. Aside from, well, everything else, I was worried about the kid, Theodore. He grew freakishly fast. He was walking after only 6 months and started speaking in full sentences when he was less than a year old. By the time he was 4, he was fluent in Latin and repeatedly beat the computer at chess. We didn't know exactly how smart he was, since Ted was adamant to keep his gifts a secret from the world, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up in the Guinness Book of Records. Not only that, he obviously wasn't our biological child. I have brown hair and brown eyes, and Ted has black hair and hazel eyes. Theodore has white blonde hair and irises so dark you can't tell where his pupils are. Even the eye doctor thought that was weird. After that, Ted refused to take him to any doctors. That didn't matter, though, as the kid never got sick anyway. Not only was he never sick, he never got injured. Once, he fell from the roof. Don't ask why. One moment, he was in the garden eating bugs. Yeah, he eats bugs. And the next, he was up on the roof. And then he was nosediving to the ground. He hit the ground with a thud and a crunch, and I thought for sure I was going to be tried for child murder. But then in the next moment, Theodore picked himself up from the ground and went back to eating bugs. There wasn't a scratch on him. That wasn't even the oddest thing about Theodore. Sometimes he spoke to people that weren't there, which isn't so unusual on the surface. Kids have imaginary friends, but on more than one occasion, I could have sworn there was light coming from his room at night after he'd been tucked in and turned the light off. I could hear Theodore whispering to someone in his room, but whenever I got near enough to see what was happening, the light mysteriously disappeared and the whispering stopped. Ted laughed off my concerns. He said I was imagining things. Easy for him to say. Theodore behaved perfectly around him. It was when Dad wasn't home that the little devil showed his true self. He'd pick at his food, throw his vegetables on the floor, and mess up my paintings. I stopped painting altogether after that last stunt he pulled when he covered the entire painting with Vanta Black. Don't ask where he got that from. It wasn't in my paint collection. Sometimes the kid just has things he shouldn't. Like he just conjures them up out of the thin air. Oh, and I'm 99% sure the little punk ate our dog. One minute, Sammy was sleeping peacefully in her dog bed, and the next she was gone and nowhere to be seen. And who was sitting next to her at the time? Creepy black-eyed Theo. When I asked him what he did to the dog, he just grinned. There was a piece of fur stuck to his teeth. Needless to say, raising the kid did a real number on the marriage. Whenever I bring up anything negative about precious little Theo, Ted is quick to defend him, even about the missing pets. I don't even know if he can see reason anymore, or if everything in his head just revolves around the kid who I'm sure isn't even his. But try telling him that. Lately, Theodore's been bugging me about when he's going to get a sibling. I don't know, I told him. Are the aliens going to kidnap your dad again? He gave me his trademark sly smile, which he reserved solely for me. Oh, Mother, he said. You are so silly. Why would the aliens take Father again? He's had his turn. Now it's yours. Excuse me? I asked him. Look, kid, I know you take me for a joke, but nobody can make me have a baby I don't want. Not even the aliens. So I knock his little smirk off of his dumb face, and he stares at me with those coal black eyes. We'll see about that, Mother. And then he returned to painting Vanta Black all over the TV. Was he threatening me? I told Ted, but he laughed it off like he always does. He's just a baby, Mal. He's 6. All kids ask for little siblings. It's normal. He told me aliens are going to abduct me and force me to have a baby. That's not normal. Ted suddenly looked dead serious. He locked eyes with me and said, "You might like it." I did. Yeah, I think the two are conspiring against me. I saw them whispering together in the hallway. Those weird lights I saw in Theodore's room are just outside the door now, and I think they're speaking to me. It's so bright in here all of a sudden. It's like the ceiling split open and there's a beam of light coming through. Like the sun, except that's impossible because it's the middle of the night. Well, hold on. What is happening? Who's talking? Why do I feel so light? Oh no, I'm floating off of my chair. Oh no. No.